reading Blavatsky and all the things associated with that, and then also taking it into a deeper area, and we'll get into that sometime, but it's not going to be so easy. So, while everyone's out there busy looking at pornography on internet, basically being manipulated, you don't understand. They say everything's connected in a certain way. Well, it's connected by vibrations. And so the universe, if you think technology of higher realms, so you think Earth is the basis for the rest of the universe. Earth is a product of such universe. There are many universes, correct? So what is it? A great central fire that's one element that's come down to us and separated into four. So does an alien, be him human looking, be him not human looking, it doesn't matter. We don't talk to them on a day-to-day basis. They're practically not allowed to visit our world because of the world system, the beast system that's in place. So people complain, why don't they show themselves? Well, they can't. What are they going to do? Get a YouTube channel? No one's going to, it doesn't work that way. So do they need the technology from us? No. We're somewhat advanced, but that's a relative term. So people, if you look at organic life and conclude that organic life, such as this, is either dead or not dead, or living or not living, then you basically draw a dualistic line about what is matter, and then you have no basis for the formation of our world. So, in other words, they say it came from an explosion, but they don't quite explain where the explosion originated at, nor do they explain how do we become individuals. But alas, if it makes sense to you now, to back up a little bit for the slower people, which is okay if you're slow, but don't stay slow forever. You have to change. You have a certain quality of food that's being... Who's there? Who is it? Someone's back there. Raccoon or something. Certain quality of food that you're eating, and then that vibration affects your body in such a way that you have to go to like a lower vibration, which is like fleshly desire only, then you can't use your higher mind. That's why I do promote a kind of diet that's based on real food, plant life only, unless you feel like your physiology is not going to be able to withstand vegetarian diet or something like that. I always felt it was easy to transition into, but it's a day-by-day thing. Who's back there? Well, anyways, so that goes along with the idea that there's organic matter and then there's some emptiness of space, and that for some reason things cannot exist everywhere. They can only exist on the planet because we have a reference in our mind that we're the planet, and this is what formulates the basis of the world, the universe, rather than seeing it from spirit creating the worlds, and then spirit is in all things, so spirit forms life, and spirit, and I don't mean the Holy Spirit, I just mean spirit, which is a more spirit is more subtle than matter. Matter would be denser. So these levels exist throughout all the planets, So there's no relative basis for what we believe is what things are out there. So we can't observe with science. So this is the conundrum of science versus occultism, or spiritual science or occult science. Are you following this? That don't lose the thought. See, that's what things want to do, is make you lose the thought. After a while, you get very serious and learn how to make a thought last longer in your mind. It's a practice and a form of meditation, so you never get distracted. So they want to always get a quick answer. Tell me what it is. Now, I need it, because you can't meditate. You think meditation's weird or something. It's not. It's just the ability to focus on a thought and allow that thought to develop. Let's say you could focus on a thought for an hour, and then you could come to some kind of, that's the answer. But there is no final answer like this. So, this is my nutmegs necklace. First time in public since probably 20. I made it probably like 4 years ago. So, like, it's a pretty big one. See? Bam. Check that out. Yeah. So, people are trying to get on this trip, of material science, trying to observe the universe by physical means. So that's the conundrum, is Platonic science or occult science. Basically, from Madame Blavatsky, she can sum it up for you and give you the bridge, the key between all the Greeks, except for the Stoics, maybe a little bit of them, but mostly the Socratic Greeks, and the occult sciences, and how they merge with exactitude. And so if you watch like Cosmos from Carl Sagan, that he says Plato was not an empiricist. So, and Carl Sagan's kind of cool maybe, but I don't think it's cool, because for me, I get excited like about Plato or about mystical science. So how exciting is that? Well, because it has to do with nature. And nature to me was always the thing that drew me to the higher philosophy of music, sounds, compositions, visual dimensions. When I saw fractals in the trees, things like that, when you get realizations, it comes from nature. So to be connected to that, nature reveals the universe. The true universe is within you, which is what they call the inner sun, S-U-N, sun, the great light, the fire of the east. And so Plato knew that, of course, and his associates, his comrades, maybe not Aristotle as much, but that's okay. Aristotle kind of made his place for himself. He wasn't really the progenitor of the philosophies. And what does it mean? Is this like an ego trip for somebody? That's what they're trying to get at. Empiricism to them would be blatantly kind of blinded or blundered, or it'd be like looking in a telescope. It'd be like looking in a telescope with your eye closed, trying to see something on the moon, You're looking in a glass, even the Bible has it, looking through a glass darkly. That's empiricism, really, but that also has to do with the fact that we'll never see, what is impossible for us to see, that we think we've seen God, supposedly, and they just mean the most unrefined, absolute form of matter, form of spirit even, that's impossible to see. So that's like absolute nothingness. So the problem we're seeing is a conflict of philosophy to the point of extremism in science, not in anything else. I don't want to reference those things that are trying to tear people hearts apart. I'm talking about the things that are being enforced on the world through, obviously, big corporations will practice that. I mean, I say fuck them, because they should at least represent some level of spirituality for human beings as a whole, and they want to promote these blind ideas. And I think now that we're in the 2000s, 2000 to 3000, there may be an ice age coming, but it doesn't matter, because a few people always survive it, and a few ideas may actually evolve in this time, and that would be what matters to the gods, because the higher beings are natural. Everything's natural. So outer space itself, when I'm getting back to that original thought, outer space itself, if you realize that even decaying wood and your car and stuff is alive in a less refined sense that you know of or can perceive. So people have become blatantly crude and say that my ego can see. What science has told us creates us into superhumans, that we can see such deepness, that so they believe that their perceptions are not limited at all, basically. So it's blind leading the blind. But not only that, that outer space is not conceived of. And who's going to go to NASA? Doesn't matter at all. They're just part of the civilization doing their thing. They're not going to tell you about the occult sciences from Blavatsky. They have more of a motive for a business. I don't dislike them. I think it's cool. I don't have a great interest in their ideas because it's material science. And nobody's going to contact aliens from the world because it's set up that way. And so outer space, are you listening to this? Outer space is organic. And once you understand that, everything's organic, even supposed dead matter, like a chair, that each molecule in it has spirit and comes from invisible spirit, invisible to our senses. Maybe it's not invisible to the Syrians from Sirius, highly advanced white lodge, meaning adepts of the purest sense, and highly advanced beings that hold great power for the entire universe that we know of, at least our galaxy. And so, you know, they're not going to stoop to our level, and they may perceive in an instant. They may not even have to think. We're human beings. A bear is a bear. It comes from the spirit of a bear. A human being comes from the human being as a spirit or a monad. And these things, those beings that they come from, we're not saying all humans have connected to that part. You can tell that I believe that I have, and I'm not going to go on record about it because I don't care if other people know that or not. Why would I? Why would Epicurus care? He's too busy trying to get laid, not trying, doing it, having a pleasurable life, knowing what's good for him, and making sense of reality. That's the part where people started to have the fall of man is, in one sense, symbolical of, what did I just say? Symbolical of this misconception about, I forgot. Let's keep moving. I want to back up a little bit. You might think that's funny. I'm kind of funny too, but I feel like humor is good, but I feel like something more like immortal teachings and stuff like that produce more karma than humor. Humor produces good karma, but if someone reaches to their higher soul through these words, then that would be better, I think, in the long run, because we all live in spirit. Ultimately, we live in spirit. That doesn't mean a misty thing like, oh, it's so spirit. It means there's a reality higher than ourselves. It's like Gurdjieff. If he wants to talk to you through his books or through his immortal soul, then he would tell you too that people are asleep and they need to be awakened. But we're like a cocoon. Basically, our body's like a plasmic cocoon that we could go through several lives. I mean, I didn't, as far as I know. But other people may. If they're not awakened in this life, maybe they come back and that same embryo of their body and their mind and the lower astral body of the fourth principle is eventually brought to the higher principles and reunited for the first time to an actual living being that's their higher self in its highest, purest sense. So, is this for some kind of, it's for anybody. It's not for a prejudiced thing. It's for the whole world. That's why it matters that people see that Plato wasn't wrong by going against empiricism. He had no use for it. He used clairvoyance. Or maybe Socrates was better at clairvoyance, but he used clairvoyance, or Pythagoras was like the god of clairvoyance in the true sense, which is clairvoyance goes along with the rest of the Hermetic studies. So it's like a 7-point study of clairvoyance, magic, natural philosophy, cosmology, cosmogony, theogony, the stars, astronomy, astrology, which is a degraded science now and highly fallible, but still there's truth in it, and that's why it works. But there's planets that we don't see. Why don't we see them? Is it something new agey? No, I don't like that. I'm talking about refined forms of matter that are globes within our observable. For instance, Ceres, they saw lights on it. Well, sure, it could be just a UFO or a civilization there. Or we don't see everything that planet is. For instance, we don't see each other's spirits or souls, or we don't see ghosts every day. We'd see them walking around all the time if we could see them, because it's more refined. It's in a higher sphere even, or a higher realm. So do planets exist as beings, as souls? Sure, because the entire universe is living and is organic in a higher sense than we even know. But it's an organism, and so Ceres, we may be seeing something that's like a reflection of the civilization that may be a higher sphere that we don't see, a more refined form of matter. They think that